10 things I hate about Requiem. Now, this game was fucking incredible. It was amazing, but it was not perfect. These are 10 things I did not like, and we'll see if there are 10 things you did not like. If you have any questions or comments, you know where to leave them, straight below. Let's jump straight into it. So, first up is going to be the weak villains / the Wesker of it all. Yeah, guys, I gotta be honest, man. I was super hyped for the baddies in this game. Victor Gideon was a terrifyingly interesting antagonist. He was so cool looking, so fucking creepy. Throughout the first portion of the game, honestly, I thought he was flawless. I thought he was the best villain we've had probably since Jack Baker. He was incredible. And then he disappeared. And then we got who I thought was Wesker. I know they were calling him Zeno. I figured, oh, look, it's Wesker with the new paint job. Well, as it turns out, yeah, it's kind of exactly what he is. He's Wesker with a new paint job, and that's about it. He doesn't really have any of the character work that Wesker had. He's literally just writing off his success. Now, I believe he's supposed to be a clone, but we don't know that. We don't really get much with him in the actual game, and honestly, he was pretty forgettable. You could quite literally cut him out of the story, and it probably would actually strengthen the game, because then to remove him, you'd have to have Victor there, and we could actually get some screen time with him. So yeah, very, very disappointed, but at the same time, they don't ruin the game. It's not like it's a game-breaking, oh no, this is terrible, man. Resi has been struggling with his main villains lately, and unfortunately, this is just another casualty. Alright, next up, the bosses. Yeah, these are not terrible, but they're not great. There's not a particular boss where I'm like, oh my god, that was the worst thing ever been invented. But honestly, I can't really count any of them as super exciting. I'm not particularly thrilled to go back and fight any of them. I'm not looking forward to it. It's not like, oh no, I have to fight so-and-so again. It's not that at all. It's just they're not remarkable. They're very fine, middle-of-the-road average. Some are a bit better designed than others, but all of them are super quick. I don't think I died a single time to any of the actual bosses in the game, like during an actual boss fight. I got killed during the Mr. X chase section because I suck. But I thought you had to fight him, man. Don't look at me like that. I tried to take him on. But yeah, there weren't too many bosses, and none of them were particularly great. I did enjoy the final boss, but again, man, I suck at these games. I was expecting to die at least once. I was getting murked throughout every fucking level, man, and I got to the bosses, and, you know, it was pretty easy. I wish there had been a few more fights throughout the game. I think the Emily character could have been a great boss at one point. If they're gonna have the knockoff Wesker in there, might as well have Zeno be a boss fight. But yeah, maybe extra faces. I don't know. Extra faces could have helped with some of these fights, ramping up the difficulty for some of them. Like the Mr. X fight could have helped. I'm shocked Hunk was that quick. Like, the fact that we blew through the commander that easily was very, very odd. None of them are terrible, but in a game where everything is popping off and just incredible, they were very fine, and they stand out for that reason. Alright, next up. So, Grace's lack of sections in the third act, and the balancing between the two characters. Now, for the most part throughout the game, the balancing between Grace and Leon was probably the thing I was most nervous about, and I think they nailed it. You know, Grace has a wonderful horror section throughout the first act of the game, and Leon in Act 2 is a great breakup of the tension, just going to get through and going to go in and just murk everyone with absolute firepower is awesome. But that third act, we do tend to veer a little bit too close to Leon, which I'm okay with. I loved playing as him. But Grace's section felt pretty quick. I would have liked one more proper horror section. Obviously, it's a common joke amongst Resi fans that the first half of Resident Evil games are impeccable, they're incredible, and the second half they start to run out of steam. Maybe next time we have two development teams plan Resident Evil 10, and we just tell both of them you're going to do the first half. Maybe that's what we need to start doing. Okay, next point, the lack of a build-up to the end. It really felt like once Leon fell, like when he was getting all ill, like when Leon got ill, the game just kind of ended, man. It was honestly not a bad ending or anything like that, but for a final level, I really was starting to feel the build-up once we got into the Umbrella Lab, but I feel like there was a little bit missing there. The liquor section, while cool, wasn't quite the ending that I was hoping for, especially with how consistent the rest of the game was in comparison to other Resident Evil finales, such as the original trilogy's Umbrella Labs, the iconic nature of all of them. This one is going to be directly compared to it, of course, because we're in Raccoon City, we're in an Umbrella Lab. It just doesn't quite hit the high marks to me. It really did feel like we just kind of ended. It's not terrible, it's not bad, I just wish there was a little bit more added to it before we got to that final section. As well as, you know, Resident Evil final bosses tend to be kind of hit or miss in terms of living up to the expectations. This one was pretty decent, but when you have that kind of okay build up to it, it's not, it feels a little disappointing, that's all. I just wish there was a little bit more. Maybe we could have had that through like a longer expanded grace section like we talked about on the last point, but this one really felt like we just kind of hit the end and was like, okay, wrap it up. Alright, next point, the alternate ending, while shocking, felt a little pointless. Like, it was cool to see, and holy shit, man, spoilers, but Leon's death was brutal as fuck in that ending. I was sitting there like, oh my god, they killed him. I thought I got the good ending. It was only when the game ended, I was like, oh, okay, bad ending, my bad. But yeah, man, like, I don't know. It was not as egregious as Resi 7 or anything like that. I just wish we had a little bit more going on with it. It really did feel like, you know, ooh, what if you could take the choice out, and I don't really think that much matters. I probably would have preferred taking out the alternate ending and spending more development time on an actual level. Maybe they knew they were just running out of time or money, and so they threw the alternate ending together as kind of a appeasement tactic, but like most of these criticisms, they don't really hurt the game. It's just, this game is so fucking good, man. It's so good. If only there's a few more tweaks, I really feel like this could have been maybe the best in the series. Hell, for some people, it probably still is the best in the series. This is an incredible game. But yeah, the alternate ending, not as egregious as 7, but also it had less impact. Even 7, there's a boss battle change, you know, potentially. Okay, next point. So the replay of the game. I'm actually doing a second playthrough right now, and I am really enjoying it. I have just gotten to the part where Grace is going for the helicopter, and she's gonna have to explore the underground lab before we take off. But I am a little concerned about replaying a few sections in terms of versatility. The bike on rail section and the Chloe kid section, I feel like probably could get a little dull on a replay. It's like, you know, with Resi Village, the best part of that game is House Beneviento, and yet it's also probably my least favorite part on a replay. It's very formulaic, you know what's coming, and it's pretty easy to just move about, since you're so... You're playing on guardrails, essentially. Same with Resi 7. I love Resi 7. The guest house was terrifying the first couple times I went through it, but it gets to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, chop off my hand, and I know you're there, come on, get on with it. And it makes these sections that come after, you get a bit more of appreciation for them, because at least they're different, you know? And I am concerned about that. Luckily, neither of those two sections are particularly long. I think you can do both of them in like under 20 minutes. It's kind of like the minecart section, the remake of Resi 4. It's still pretty quick, so I wouldn't say it like hurts the game. And I did say, if you watch my playthrough, the bike section in particular, I had a really good time. I said it might even be my new favorite on rail section, and with only the minecart and Resi 4 kind of up for competition. I don't generally love on rail sections, but I did enjoy this one. But yeah, I'm just thinking, like, man, down the road in like 2-3 years, because I love playing these games again, I know you guys do too, is this gonna be fun on that secondary playthrough? Is this gonna be fun if you're just doing a speedrun? Probably not. It feels like all skill is momentarily taken away from you, and you just kind of gotta get through the section, man. And I will say the Chloe section, while it wasn't bad or anything like that on a first playthrough, and it was pretty cool to see some of the lore that was going on, I do not think it's going to hold up as well as the Ashley section in 4 Remake. That section was very well done, and as someone who actually was playing the OG Resi 4 literally just like a month or two ago in preparation for Requiem, that's because I want to play it, and now it's in preparation for... just wanted to turn on the game, man, have a little bit of fun. The OG Ashley section isn't really as good as the remakes. I actually find both those games pretty even. But the Ashley section was a definite improvement in the remake, I have to say, and I feel like Chloe's is not going to quite live up to it. It's going to get to a point where you're like, okay, come on. Especially on Insanity mode, both those sections I could see being incredibly frustrating. Just getting murked relentlessly, getting sent back repeatedly. I know whenever I played Professional on 4 Remake, I was just sitting there biting my nails every time I got to the minecart section, because I'm like, you know, oh man, if I don't save here, I'm so fucked. But at the same time, it's like fucking 5 minutes. If I can just get without saving, I can use this, you know, one of my 15 saves at a much better portion of the game. But yeah, that's my kind of big concern. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Alright, next up, the vanishing details and the zombies. So, this might be the best, in fact, fuck it, dude, let's go for it. This is the best the zombies have ever been. They are fucking incredible. But, there's a caveat. They are so well detailed in that early Grace section. And then it's like, maybe starting at the underground level, and then more so as the game goes on, especially when you get to, like, Raccoon City, man. They're just normal zombies, dude. They feel closer to, like, the things attacking us in Resi 6, where they're just kind of either brainless and their guns will fire off every once in a while. They really remind me of Mercenaries mode, especially the way they turn to dust when you kill them, and or later on, or dust spills out of them and stuff. It's, yeah, it was a little disappointing post that early section. It kind of reminds me of, you know, Resi 2 Remake, where the zombies are so incredible in RPD, and then you get going once you hit the sewers and whatnot, and you just kind of end up missing the older enemies, dude. Yeah, I love their details, though. They were so incredible in that early section. I wish we could have had a little bit more like that going forward into Raccoon City. But I think the way they approached it was more or less, instead of less detail, more numbers for Leon's action-oriented section, which makes sense. I mean, that would have been a nightmare to program in, so I get it, but it was a little disappointing with how fucking perfect they were. Because honestly, if you don't count that section, I don't think this game has the best zombies. I think RE2 Remake still holds that crown. In fact, I think the Ganados were far more entertaining to fight throughout the game than the zombies in Requiem. But if we're just counting that first section with Grace, they're perfect. Like, oh my god, if you haven't played it, you have to see them. They are incredible. At least just look up a video online, man. Fuck spoilers, just go for it. You have got to see it. It's so good. Alright, next up. Now, I found this out when starting my secondary playthrough. I, if you don't know, went through my first story mode trip on first person is Grace, third is Leon. That's always recommended. But personally, I prefer to play third person generally. Like for any game, not just Resident Evil. I get a little motion sick. I like third person. I'm better at third person. For some reason, when I shoot first person, I tend to miss everything. So, I don't know, man. I think I just grew up on those games. I prefer third. But this game, I was so excited to go in and play the entire story again for Grace and Leon in third person. And I've only come to find out there's no real New Game Plus or a true New Game, which is such an odd omission. You know, I spent all that time upgrading those guns in Requiem, and it felt pointless. You know, I was really disappointed to see all those weapons just go away, and I'm like, fuck, man, why did I would have spent those points. I had so many left over. I don't know, man. Now, you can get a lot of them back early on. Like, I'm already back with my pistol, my shotgun, my sniper, literally at the first Leon section. But it still is, it just feels odd, man. feels like a very odd omission. Why would you not let them carry on this? Since, like, that's how it's kind of always been. It's definitely disappointing. Coming off 4 Remake, which has so much replayability, it's not hurting me now, but I could see in the future, and I could see for other people. I mean, like, man, I don't know if I want to replay it if I don't just start off with all my weapons, you know? Like, that's kind of the point, is to keep going, to keep upgrading. For Remake, I was able to do so many different playthroughs. Like 7 story runs, 8 story runs, just keep going. You can see how your weapons, you can really change it up, play with different types, and you get attached to certain things. Each run has a certain memory of, oh, I used the Red Knight for this run, oh, I used the Blacktail for this run. Look how powerful the Blacktail got. My first run, maybe I didn't get it fully upgraded, but my second run, I got it upgraded by the end of the village, so now I have this ultra powerful handgun, and I can spend the rest of the game just playing with it. Requiem, those moments are going to be harder to replicate due to that. Not to mention, there is no true new game. If you start a new game, you will always have access to, like, Leon's item box earlier in the story than you did your first time around. Not a huge dampener for me, but I know for some people, like, if you play with, like, a sibling, for example, my sister's going to give it a try. She's going to give the game a try in probably a week or two once she gets off of school, and she's going to have those weapons earlier. Either she has to limit herself artificially, or she just runs with it, which, you know, she don't really care. She'll probably just have fun anyway, but yeah, it's very odd. If you're trying to do a challenge run, it's kind of like, what the hell, man? Just make a new game. It's called a new game for a reason. Next up, the weak gun. So yeah, man, the gunplay, the mechanics are so much fun, but the guns themselves aren't particularly memorable this time around. They're just kind of like a silencer pistol, which I like. You know, the police shotgun's pretty cool. Looks something like the gun in The Evil Within. I'm pretty sure it is the same gun. I love that weapon, so it's fun as hell, but I don't think these weapons are going to become iconic in the same way 4s were, and part of this is just because 4 Remake was fairly recent, but, you know, you really do have the personal choices of, oh man, I love the Red 9, oh man, I love the Striker shotgun, oh man, I love the Blacktail. For me personally, it's Blacktail all the way, man. In the remake, at least in the original, it's Red 9. You can have different things, like where I've always played with the Steiner sniper. But going into 4 Remake, I really enjoyed playing the bolt rifle. I just wanted to switch it up. I had so much fun that when I went back to play the OG game a month ago, I used the bolt rifle. I was like, fuck it, let's experiment, let's have some fun. And that's what that game really breeds replayability on, is experimentation. This game, yeah, there are a slight difference with some of the weapons, especially the alligator snaptail versus the silencer pistol as Leon. Outside of that, man, I didn't see too much differences, and it really felt a little inconsequential the way the upgrades work. You just kind of put a few attachments on. I saved so many points to put them into damage, and I only had 2 upgrades for each weapon. You upgrade it twice and for damage, and you get stuck with like 40,000 points. I'm like, what the hell, man? I feel way too overpowered. So yeah, I wish there had been a little bit more. I do think the upgrade system's a little bit better than 4 Remakes. This isn't bad. It's just kind of a little forgettable in the grand scheme of things. So this is going to be the big one. Our final number 10 on 10 Things I Hate About Resi Requiem. This is going to be a little controversial, man. The nostalgia was cool, but a little weak. So I know some people are spoiling this. They love the nostalgia. They hate the nostalgia. It's fan service. It shouldn't be there. It's fan service. It's incredible. Here's the deal, man. I'm a fucking sucker for nostalgia, and I love this series so much that hearing the OG theme into, I was freaking the fuck out. I've made videos on me just freaking the fuck out about the music in that section. I was so happy to hear it. I wish it had been there in the remake of 2. It was wonderful. And when Mr. X showed up, I shrieked. Like, audibly shrieked at. It was terrifying. But on that same level, I can look at it from a critical perspective and be like, yeah, man, this shouldn't, this doesn't hit as hard as it could. It's not that it's bad, it just feels you have a setting where it feels so natural. You're returning to Raccoon City, you're delving through the ruins of this place, and yet, the way it's all kind of shoved in there, it feels a little tacked on. Wesker is there, but not really. Mr. X is there, but he's a shell of his former self, and it doesn't feel quite like, oh, I'm just overpowered now as Leon, you know, I'm not that rookie cop anymore. There's a little bit of that. But at the same time, man, we had a pretty good lineup taking on the Super Tyrant in the original. Would have thought that boss fight would have been a little bit trickier. I loved seeing Plant 43 come back. I think I was calling him Plant 44 throughout the entire game, and I love the plant monsters. I know not everyone does. I fucking adore them. And yet, this one just kind of, it popped up, and I was shocked. I beat the boss, and I think under like a minute or two. And I was getting hit. I was expecting to die. I was just enjoying myself. So I was going full crazy, just unloading all of my biggest guns on him, just having a great time, man. And then he died, and I was like, the fuck? It was so quick. Yeah, man, the nostalgia doesn't quite land. It has a understandable setup. You know why it's there, but it never feels fully developed. And that's kind of what this story feels like. It's a great fucking story, but it's not very well developed. The longer it goes on, after that first act, which I would say, with Grace going up to the helicopter, is perfect, man. I mean, it's incredible. It's such a great lead-up. A lot of the stuff just doesn't feel capitalized on. The Raccoon City Curse, to me, is the biggest offender. That was probably the plot point I was most excited for in the entire game, and yet it hardly gets touched on throughout the story outside of Leon feels dizzy. You know, spoilers, but we get a character that's largely implied to be Hunk later in the game. And you think, well, he was in Raccoon City, maybe he would have the curse too. Maybe not. You know, he's got the uniform and gas mask on, but I don't know. Maybe he does. That could be interesting. The Wesker knockoff, Xeno, has the Raccoon City curse too. It hardly matters, man. It hardly fucking matters. He loses his powers at the end of the game. It hardly matters. It's odd. Odd to say the least. I really wish they had developed it a little bit more. Maybe you could have had Alyssa Ashcroft suffering from the curse earlier on in the story. I know it's just a virus. I know it's not a real curse, but still, man. That is such an interesting plot point. One that could affect all of the Resi main cast of like Chris and Jill, and it's odd it never gets brought up until the end where Chris shows up and not even on screen. It really feels like in a lot of ways this is a send-off to the series before we go into the next big chapter, and it is exciting. It was a beautiful send-off, especially with Leon's character arc. But it doesn't quite land in me. I wish they had spent a little bit more time. This really feels like they needed a second draft. Or maybe not a second draft, but just a little bit more time in editing to fully flesh out some of these details. And you can see a lot of the story complaints really are tied to that. The weak bosses, at least they could, even if the fights were still mechanically kind of lower, you could still have them at least feel a bit more important, but they really don't. You can literally go through the story and you cannot mention Mr. X, Plant 43, the Titan Spinner Spider boss. You really can go through the majority of them without even mentioning them. Chunk, you can go without mentioning him. I think the only ones you have to say are the girl and then Victor in the end, right? Unless I'm forgetting something. There's just not much there, and that is certainly disappointing. That being said, though, holy shit, this was a fucking great game. This has been 10 things I hate in Resi Requiem, but I do not hate Resi Requiem itself. This was a fantastic game. I will have a review coming up soon, and next up we're going to do top 10 things I loved about Requiem. Believe it or not, man, that list was actually harder than this one. Even though I adore the game, you know, it was tricky to kind of go out and just pick 10 things and figure out, you know, what I wanted to say in that video. This one I was thinking, oh my god, are there even 10 things? And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, man, there's quite a few. The story, the bosses, all of it is good. Very few, or very little, is great, which is a shame. Because there is so much great in this game that when something is just fine, it stands out all the more for it. But those have been my thoughts. What do you guys think? Let me know. Stick around if you want to see 10 things I loved about Requiem. That'll be out hopefully in a few days. Till then, I will see you guys later.